Hi, this is Yvonne, and this video is for my amazing team members at Team George. And today we are talking about one of our guidelines in natural play therapy called interest and expanding. And if we look at our natural play therapy cycle, it is down here on our BIRDIE acronym. These are things that we do when we are ready to relate with George, and the interest and expanding is here at the end when George is more connected. All right? So that is the area that we are in today. And interest in expanding models associative play and cooperative play. So the first thing that we like to talk about is, what are George's interests? Well, we know he loves movement. We know he loves music. He loves to climb. He likes to swing. So that's part of movement, I guess. But he likes movement visually, watching it, but he also likes movement of his body moving. And he also likes electronics, which we try to keep those out of the playroom, although we are using the Google tablet to be a motivator for him to use the potty. And it's working because he is actually taking us to the potty when he needs to go. Sometimes it's when he wants to do the pad, but he's still doing what we want, so that's pretty awesome. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about interest in expanding. And first of all, we do it when George is more connected. So how do we know when he wants to connect with us? He gives us eye contact. He looks at us in the eyes. He comes and sits on our laps. He hugs us. He climbs on our backs, letting us know, hey, I want to be with you. He takes our hand and goes and leads us to what he wants to do. So those are ways that we know that he is connected with us. When does interest in expanding happen in the playroom or wherever we're at? Well, it can happen when we're bridging and exploring, and it can just turn into interest in expanding. It can happen while we're recharging and deepening. He can come over and initiate interaction with us. It can happen right when you walk in the playroom, or it can happen toward the end of your session with George. It can happen anytime. So interest expanding is when we are using George's interest to reach goals that we have for him. And we're expanding into that cooperative play, which George is not fully there, but he does touch on it a little bit. So we have to celebrate those little steps into the cooperative play. So with a little example, let's go to our marble example, because that is something that George really likes to do. And he was off of it for a while, and he seems to kind of be back on it. So let's talk about the marble game. Let's go back to parallel play, where he has a tower and you have a tower, and you're not interacting. And let's say George comes over and wants to play on your tower. Which, yes, he does this, right? He comes over and he's like, I want to play on your tower too. So then you're taking turns. This is that associative play. And this happened last week. I shared with some of you that were here, I believe it was Wednesday, that we need to work on fine motor. Okay, the fingers to the thumb, different fingers. So we thought, what is George interested in? He is interested in marbles. So how can we use this marble activity to gently get him to this goal of working on fine motor? And so what Rachel did while she was working with him that day is she modeled picking up the marbles and dropping them into the towers with different fingers, and then George was free on his own to try it without being pressured. So this is an example of being in associative play, and then interested in expanding into cooperative play. Because what's Rachel doing? She's changing up the activity, and she's working on the fine motor skills. We also, some of you were here. I think it was that same day. We had several things going on, and we also had a goal of George to work on touching textures with his hands. And so we put the marble towers on top of these textured mats. So when the marbles rolled off, he went to pick them up on the textured mats, and his hand touched the surface, not being pressured. We weren't taking his hands and saying, George, feel this, come on, because we know he doesn't like that. And it's not really respecting his wishes. So that was a way to get to our goal of wanting him to touch his different textures, to get his brain used to this. And we used his interest and just expanded upon him and changed up the game that we were working on. So those are a couple examples of interest in expanding, and some of you are already doing this in the playroom and you may not have known it. So I look forward to talking about other ways that we can do interest in expanding with George and work on getting him into that cooperative play. So thank you all for listening, and that is a little bit about interest and expanding.